All right, so Caleb Maddix, he's our next guest. He's an 18-year-old multi-million dollar entrepreneur who's the author of 11 books, co-founder of a kids education company with 100,000 students, and social media sensation with dozens of viral videos that have reached over 100 million people. Maddix is one simple goal. Maddix has one simple goal: to impact and change the lives of all 8 billion people on Earth and change the current educational system. Caleb.
Yo, Caleb, what's up, man?
Dude, that little intro thing was awesome right there. I love that. That was cool.
So, dude, the movers have been awesome, man. The movers put that together. I'm going to be setting you up with an introduction to the movers. You look great, man. How are you doing?
Dude, you look great as well, man. Happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day. Happy Earth Day. So I just want to give a quick little background on Caleb. When Caleb and I met, immediately I was just amazed. I met him at an event that he was actually hosting that a friend of mine was like, hey, come and check this out. I was like, all right. And then all of a sudden I see that there's a whole bunch of young people there, teenagers. And I'm like, what is this? And all of a sudden, like, I was worried. Like, I was worried. I was like, are these kids drinking? I'm the only like legal adult here. But dude, you amaze me, because when you started speaking, I'm like, this kid is something absolutely special. And from that moment, I immediately knew that whatever I could do to help you and just to be a vertical value to you and just introduce you to people, I want the world to know Caleb Maddix. You're like a younger brother to me, and you're a rock star, and the world needs to know what you're doing, what you're passionate about, and the whole nine. So Caleb, jump in, man.
Dude, well, first things first, I appreciate that, Charlie. Like, you're like a big brother to me. And, I get to do a lot of interviews. I've done a lot over the past few years. I've been doing interviews since I was 13 years old whenever I wrote my very first book. So I've probably done over 1,000 interviews since then. No question whatsoever. And this is one that I'm looking forward to pretty much over all of them, because I love you to death, bro. And I feel like it's not even like an interview or a speech. It's just gonna be like, we're just going to have a good conversation. And I'm looking forward to that. And every single time we get to talk, Charlie, we always have really deep epiphanies, and we get to talk about really, really great concepts and really just kind of come up with solutions for the problems that the human race is facing. And that's really why I personally am on this earth. Yes, I do all the other business stuff, make money, go viral, have the quote unquote fame in some ways, in some aspects. But for me, what really matters is impacting people. That's been the biggest thing that has kind of drawn me to you, Charlie, is your talk of wanting to impact people, wanting to make the earth a better place, and not just as something that's on a t-shirt of like make the earth a better place or some Instagram you would see, but like actually embodying that and living that and ask yourself, how can we provide solutions that makes the human race better? So I'm looking forward to it, bro. I feel like we're going to have a good conversation tonight, man.
Yes, we are. So, all right. So Caleb, I want people to know the what and why should they care about what you're doing right now.
What and why should they care? I honestly don't think they should. I think they should care about their own species. I think they should care about the human race. I think they should care about their fellow brothers and sisters that we're all on the exact same earth here. And I think if they care about that, then they have to in return care about what I'm currently working on, because what I'm working on is impacting the youth, because for me, I've been in the entire personal development industry, the education industry, where people share information online. They write books and people read those books. And I was massively impacted by that. I mean, the number one reason I've been able to do the things I've done is because my dad, when I was younger, 7 years old, he started paying me $20 for every single business book I would read and personal development book I would read. So that changed my life. But for me, I realized at a really young age that instead of rewiring millions of adults' minds, what if we wire them right from the start when they're kids? Instead of trying to transform millions of adults' minds, what if we just form them right from the start when they're kids? And that's the mission behind everything I do. And with me and my business partner, Ryan, is how can we change the inputs that's going into the young human mind? And I feel like currently those inputs are not what they need to be. And I think there's so many problems that we have on the earth, kind of going with the whole Earth Day theme. And I'm looking at people's stuff. I love the Earth. I think it's so cool. I feel like we're in space right now.
Right. It's awesome. That's cool.
100%. But like because of it is Earth Day, I think if you look at the earth, there are so many problems. You know, the suicide rate's higher than it's ever been. Depression rate's higher than it's ever been. The way that we're treating the planet, people's overall satisfaction and happiness, and the list goes on. I mean, you go through the stats, like people are focused on the stats of how much money they're making. I'm more focused on the stats of the problem the human race are going through. And I'll just flip through them sometimes and do research on the current problems. And if you look at all these problems, I think if you want to solve these problems, you want to end suffering for other humans around you. But that's so difficult to do. It's so difficult to look back and say, how can we impact 8 billion people? How can we solve every problem the human race is dealing with? The truth is you can't do that because that's an output. Like all these problems that we have, there's an output, but there's an overall input, in my opinion, that's creating these outputs. Even if you look at someone like Jeff Bezos wasn't focused on creating the number one company in the world. That's an output. He said, what is the input that creates the number one company in the world? And that's being the most customer-centric company in the world. So that's the value he instilled in his team. That's the value he instilled in his shareholders. Let's be the most customer-centric company in the world. He focused on the input, and therefore they got the output of being the number one company. So I've asked myself, okay, we have these outputs of all these problems the human race is dealing with, but what is the input that will create those outputs? And for me, it's educating our youth. Because if I don't just try to solve a problem, but I rather create a system that creates problem solvers, how many problems are going to be solved? Like in my life, I can go become one great person. I can go become Jeff Bezos, Charlie Moore, Martin Luther King. Right? I can become any of these people. But the truth is, if I do that, there'll be one problem I solve. Or I can create a system that creates those people. I can look at the patterns of how all of those people think. And if I can instill that into people at a young age, then imagine there's 1 million problem solvers. Like imagine an education system in which kids aren't just doing math problems, but they're solving world problems. Imagine on kids' desks, you're not just giving them some equation they have to solve, but you're giving them a current problem the entire human race is dealing with. You give 1 million kids that problem, and one of them comes up with a solution. So for me, I don't really care that people care about what I do because they're going to be influenced and impacted by it no matter what. But I think if anyone does care about the human race, then you look back and say, listen, like we need to train up the youth. Instead of just me becoming a great person, I want to create great people. And that's the goal. And even like another thing, going back to Jeff Bezos, one of his goals is he wants to create us to be a multi-planet species. Because his thought process is if we're on a multi-planet, say we're on 1,000 planets, is actually the way he says it, then we'll have 1,000 Einsteins and 1,000 Da Vinci's and 1,000 Mozarts. We'll have 1,000 of these great minds individually because we'll be on 1,000 different planets. So every single one great human, well, if there's 1,000 planets, then there'll be 1,000 of each of those great people. But in my opinion, it's like, well, we have all the resources here on Earth. And I don't know about you guys, but I've looked at a lot of the other planets. I'd prefer to be here. So we're trying to figure out how can we create those great people here. And that to me is my overall mission. And everything I do, all the different projects I work on, all fuels back to that overarching goal.
I hope you guys are all hearing that. I mean, and this isn't just fluff. Caleb is a beast and action. He moves. So this is not just in concept and theory. This is actually in motion. Caleb has inspired hundreds of thousands of kids, if not millions of kids across the world through his education platform. And he's doing this now. What I love about this is that he's thinking about the future of people. And this really ties into Earth Day. And Caleb, your energy right now, thank you, because it's late on the East Coast and you're waking people up, you're making people realize. And what I love about this too is that we have such a diverse audience. And this audience is allowing us to, there's some people here that are parents of kids that, wow, what is this kid talking about? What is Caleb talking about? You're building a massive future audience of just exponential education towards a purpose and towards a solution. It's not just sitting back and thinking about it, but it's actually coming to action to develop. I love it. Caleb, it's amazing. It's you're really a shining star, man. So tell me this.
Charlie, I appreciate that.
Let's go 10 years. All right, because it takes a good 10 years at least to educate a kid from say 4 to 14, 3 to 13 or so, okay? 10 years. What impact do you want to see? And I know you go big, man, so you're going to blow my mind with this, and I know you're going to hit it. So in 10 years, what do you want to see from the kids that are now these young adults? And what are the things that you're going to look back on that won't exist anymore?
The current education system.
All right, good. So you killed that, but so
I know in 10 years it won't. I don't think it will be completely done, but I think we'll have the infrastructure and system in place to where it's pretty much inevitable that it does happen. And once again, like to me, I know that like it sounds unbelievably crazy to think that because I'm 18 years old, right? So like to have that level of vision is crazy. And I've actually got a lot of like slack from like big business owners and et cetera that own massive companies because like dude, like that's just that being said, I'm saying it on camera because I know that once it does happen, all these statements of me saying this will be documented. And for me, I'm fully certain that's what's going to happen. And there's a bunch of plays to make that happen. And like there's one called Astro. And Astro is really the way that we're actually going to change the education system. And I can't really go into mass amount of detail. But one of the things I do want to be working on this year that's going to kind of lead to that is the first step, which is something called alternative. And what alternative is going to be is just that. It's the alternative to the current education system. It's for parents who say, listen, like, this is not what I want my kids to be currently going through. I mean, I have 100,000 kids a part of the current kids education company I have, and that's pretty much what all of them say is like, I want some other education for my kids because the current education system isn't doing enough. So alternative is going to be that alternative for parents that want their kids to be going through something else and having a different type of education. And it's going to be an actual accredited homeschool program. And here's really the mission behind alternative. I think one of the big things, I surveyed all the 100,000 kids inside the program, or not all of them, but a handful. I asked my family members. I reached out to a few friends, and I asked them this one simple question. What do you think needs to change about the current education system? And there was really one thing that they all said, and this actually blew my mind. It wasn't even what I was expecting. But the number one thing they wish they could change is that it's one size fits all. That was the number one thing. Mm-hmm. And I found that really fascinating. So I asked them more in depth, and they're like, well, there's all these different kids who think and learn completely differently, who have all sorts of different traits, home lives, cultures, etc. Yet they go through the exact same assembly line of education. And for me, I know that one of the big reasons why I was able to be educated is because my education was so customized. It was based out of curiosity. And for me, it wasn't just like I was learning one thing. It was like whatever I needed to learn at that moment in time. Like my dad, I have, like, in my opinion, the best dad in the world. Charlie's right there at number 2 spot as the greatest dad out here, man. I sincerely believe that. We'll dive into that more here in a little bit because, man, I love Charlie. That's one of the big reasons and things I respect about you is your how you are as a father, man. I genuinely have like to commend you on that. Like I've had so many parents part of my program. I meet so many parents across the world. My dad knows so many parents. Like, dude, you have stood out as just like, wow, man, you were setting your kids up, and it's gonna be so fun getting to see what your kids do. But my dad, for me, one of the big things he did was he customized my life. Like he realized when I was younger, a big thing I needed to instill was attitude. So that's what he currently taught me. And then he realized after that, it was discipline. And whatever I needed at the moment, that was what my dad taught me. And that was a big reason why I think the way I think now, because it wasn't one size fits all or an assembly line, but it was my education was based out of curiosity. I feel like that's what all great people do. You look at someone like Albert Einstein, these great people's minds go down rabbit holes. They go down these paths, and then that's when the great epiphanies are had. It's not this set regimented system that causes them to learn X thing. It's this their mind just wanders, and they come up with things that no human before has come up with or articulated the right way. And I feel like that's the way the education system needs to be. It's not one size fits all. So kind of what we're going to be doing is we're creating an AI. We're creating an artificial intelligence. And the premise behind the AI is your kids don't just learn, but we learn to them. And that's really the goal behind Alternative, which is what we're launching over the next year. And there's a whole lot that goes into that, and that's taken up a lot of time. But the goal, and a lot of capital. But the goal is to create an AI that learns your kids, that learns the way that they learn the most, the traits that they have, the way that they think, the questions they have. Do they learn more through audio, or do they learn more through visual, or learn more through reading? Like, what for them is the way that learns the most? And that to me is, I feel like the next evolution of education is not an education in which the kids come in and it's assembly line, but it's where kids come in and their mind, like the entire education system is revolved around them. And that's really the big goal. And the second part of Alternative, what we're doing is, I feel like another thing is a current flaw of the education system is it's so based around memorizing answers. And that's a really big thing. But if you look at the greatest discoveries the human race has had and the greatest things that have advanced us and enhanced us, it wasn't through memorizing answers. It was through deep, burning questions that we had the answers for. And so that's kind of the next goal of, like, with what we're doing is, I want the new education system that we're creating to be centered around questions and not answers. Like, I think a powerful thing would be an entire day where a kid comes in and all they do all day is just think. Like, you ask them one simple question and their job that entire day is to think. So for me, that is what I feel like over the next year I'm going to be working on. But then the big long-term play over the next 10 years is going to be something called Astro, which is what I'm most excited about in my life. I'm looking forward to it.
Dude, I think everyone listening in is just like, wow, where does this energy come from? And they love it. And this is the second interview talking about AI and education. And I'm going to link you guys together with this guy. Yeah. He designs and codes all the AI himself, Jonathan. I'll link you guys together. Very good personal friend of mine. So, all right, Caleb, we have only a minute left. I want to do a round 2 interview with you. If you would honor me at a later week, we'll schedule a time. You're the busiest guy there is, so I thank you. And so 1 minute, leave people off. What is an immediate call to action item that they could be doing at home right now while they're stuck in their homes?
Immediate call to action item. Well, I actually launched something in the past 30 days called YTA. And I feel like one of the big problems with what's currently going on is not just the health aspects of things, but it's the financial aspects. That's been one of the number one things of what's happening with the economy. So I launched something called YTA, which shows people how to profit from YouTube without ever showing your face on camera, editing a single video, being a YouTuber, or even spending a dime on ads. And I'm going to give for free for everyone watching this a 3-hour presentation I did breaking down the opportunity. It's cool because we had people 2 weeks ago who they didn't have jobs, but now because they got fired from the job they had for 10 years, and now they're employing 5 people underneath their YTA company. We've had 2,000 people join in the past 30 days, and we're getting a lot of results with it.
Dude, yo, send the link over to the team. The team will shoot it out. We'll put it together out in the newsletter that for all of our guests. That's really generous of you, Caleb, and thank you so much. I hope you have a great evening. Thank you for joining us. This has been a great Earth Day event. I can't say anything else about it, so thank you.
I love you, Charlie. Thank you guys so much. Really cool things you guys are doing here.
Yo, love you, little bro.
Happen. We're making the follow-up interview happen.
Yeah, let's do it, man. So